A snowy night, a dimly lit roadside just outside a small town. The kind of night where silence doesn't feel peaceful, it feels endless. My breath hung in the air like smoke, every exhale a small reminder that I was still here, still waiting. I had been sitting in my broken-down car for hours, watching the snow gather on the windshield like a slow burial. The heater had stopped working long ago, and my phone, of course, had died after the first hour. No charger, no signal, no lifeline. I was alone. Cars passed occasionally, their headlights cutting briefly through the darkness like searchlights, but they never slowed. Never stopped. I thought about waving someone down, but my arms were frozen stiff, and honestly, so was my hope. People didn't stop for strangers anymore. Not at night, not in the cold. I wrapped my coat tighter, knowing it wouldn't make much difference. My toes were numb, my fingers stiff, and somewhere deeper than the cold, my heart ached. Not just from this night, but from everything that led to it. Losing my job, the argument with my sister, the crushing quiet that had followed ever since. I hadn't felt warmth, not the kind that matters, in weeks. Then, just as I leaned my head against the window, ready to give in to whatever came next, it happened. Headlights, not fast and flashing like the others, but slow, deliberate. A truck, its tires crunched over the snow as it pulled over and rolled to a stop just ahead of me. For a second, I didn't move. I just stared. Was this real? Someone had stopped, and in that moment, I didn't care who it was. All I knew was, I wasn't alone anymore. I opened the door cautiously, the icy wind immediately slicing through what little warmth I had left. The snow crunched under my boots as I approached the truck, my legs stiff from sitting so long. The driver's side window rolled down slowly, and I saw him, a man probably in his 60s, gray beard, lined face, kind eyes. He looked at me like he had been expecting me. "You all right?" he asked, voice calm, like this was just any other Tuesday night. I managed a nod, though I wasn't. Car broke down. Phone's dead. He leaned over and opened the passenger door. "Hop in. Warm up." I hesitated, but something in his voice felt safe. Not pushy, not urgent. Just human, real. The warmth inside the cab hit me like a wave. The heat blasted from the vents, and the scent of coffee filled the air. He handed me a half-full travel mug. "Still hot," he said. "Take it." I wrapped my frozen fingers around it like it was gold. "Thank you," I whispered. He didn't ask too many questions. Didn't pry. Just nodded to the snow outside and said, "Nasty night to be out alone." We drove slowly back onto the road, the tires humming beneath us. After a few miles of silence, he added, "You looked like you needed saving more than just your car." I didn't know what to say to that. No one had said anything close to that in a long time. My throat tightened, and I blinked away tears I hadn't planned to shed. I didn't thank him, not yet. I couldn't. So I just held the coffee, stared out at the snow, and for the first time in weeks, I let myself breathe. The truck rolled steadily through the snow-covered backroads, the night wrapped around us like a heavy blanket. Outside, the world was quiet. Inside, it felt even quieter. We didn't speak for a while, and it wasn't awkward. It was the kind of silence that doesn't demand to be filled. The kind that gives you room to breathe, to think, maybe even to heal. Eventually, he asked where I was headed. I told him the name of the town about 40 miles ahead. "Got a friend there?" he asked. "No," I said, "just trying to figure things out." He nodded like he understood without needing more. Maybe he did. I found myself opening up, carefully at first. Told him how I'd been laid off last month, how my savings were almost gone, how I'd left home after a fight with my sister I couldn't take back. I hadn't told anyone that. Not even myself, not really. But somehow, this man, this stranger in a truck, made it feel okay to say it out loud. He didn't react right away. Just kept his eyes on the road, hands steady on the wheel. Then, after a long pause, he said quietly, "I lost my son 2 years ago." Same time of year, same kind of silence afterward. I turned to look at him. He wasn't crying. He wasn't breaking down. But there was a weight in his voice that said everything. "I started driving nights like these," he added, "not to escape it, but to meet it head on. Sometimes I find people. Sometimes people find me." We drove on, and for the first time, I realized something. We were both broken in different ways. But for a few miles, on that quiet road, we weren't alone in it. The truck pulled into a small roadside diner just off the highway, a place that looked like it hadn't changed since the 70s. A flickering neon sign buzzed faintly in the snowy night. Inside, the booths were cracked vinyl, the coffee burned just a little, and the waitress called everyone, "Hun." It felt safe. We sat by the window, our jackets steaming slightly from the melting snow. He ordered 2 bowls of chicken noodle soup without asking, like he already knew that's what I needed. I hadn't eaten since morning, and the warmth of that first spoonful nearly undid me. Food, real food, after a night like that, it tasted like comfort. You ever have nights that just knock the wind out of you? I asked, not really expecting an answer. He smiled softly, more than I can count. He didn't offer advice. He didn't give me cliches about how things would get better. He just sat with me, ate with me, like I was someone who mattered. When the check came, I reached for my wallet, but he waved me off. "You pay next time," he said with a wink. As we walked back to the truck, he opened the backseat and handed me a small box, a flashlight, a phone charger, and a power bank still in the package. "Keep these in your glove compartment," he said. "Just in case." I stared at the box, then at him. "Why are you doing all this?" He shrugged. "Because someone did it for me once. And because, maybe you'll do it for someone else someday." It was so simple. No speech, no drama, just one person choosing to be kind when they didn't have to. And it changed everything. The sky was beginning to soften into pale blue by the time we pulled into the edge of a small town. The snow had stopped falling, but it left behind a glowing silence. Everything looked cleaner in the morning light, like the world had been given a second chance overnight. He stopped the truck in front of a modest roadside motel. Nothing fancy, but it had heat, a front desk light on, and a vacancy sign humming in red. "I'll be all right from here," I said, though part of me didn't want to get out. He nodded. "You will. Might not feel like it now, but you will." I stepped out, the cold biting again, but not like before. I turned back to say goodbye, but the truck had already started moving. I called out, but he didn't hear me. Or maybe he just didn't want a thank you. Instead, I found a note tucked under the coffee cup I'd left behind on the seat. "You mattered tonight. Don't forget that." 6 words. That was it, but they hit harder than any speech ever could. I stood there in the snow long after his taillights disappeared, holding the note like it was something sacred. It wasn't just that he helped me get through the night. It was the way he reminded me, without saying it outright, that I still had value, even at my lowest. That even when we're lost, we're not invisible. I never saw him again. But I think about him every time I see a car on the side of the road, or someone who looks like they're carrying more than they're saying. And I remember that night, a night when a stranger didn't just save me. He reminded me how to save myself.